Hey, what's up everybody? I'm Anthony DeJoya with the SilverScreen Analysis. I have the great pleasure of being a guest on Jeffito's movie blog. At this time, Jeff's in the hospital battling through some serious medical issues, and in his absence, a bunch of creators are just stepping in to provide you guys with some content. Jeff's fighting to get back to full strength and to get back to full speed so he can get back as soon as he can, but we want to just continue filling this channel with videos for you guys to enjoy until he does. I personally think Jeff's a super nice guy. I think he's got a genuine heart. He's a pure movie lover like all of us, and I wish him a very speedy recovery. There's also a GoFundMe account set up to help him with some of the mounting medical bills, and every little bit helps. Even if it's just $1, we want Jeff to be able to focus on getting better, not worrying about anything else, and any contribution is going to help. Even if it's just a simple message of positive reinforcement that you could send him, it's certainly going to go a long way in helping his road to recovery. And today in this video, I'm going to be reviewing the new Disney live-action remake of Dumbo, directed by Tim Burton, starring Colin Farrell, Eva Green, Danny DeVito, Michael Keaton, and an adorable little elephant named Dumbo. The story in this one centers on a young elephant with huge ears that enables him to fly. It's a feat that's going to save a struggling circus, as well as catch the eye of some others who want to capitalize on this extraordinary feat at any cost. I'll just open by saying I had a great time with this movie. It was a remake, but with strong elements of reimagining to it. I thought it was able to create a fresh narrative that was still very much rooted from the original source material. I thought it showed effort to really take the story in different angles and add different character elements, and while not all of these new directions necessarily worked for me, it was still very much a fresh but familiar take on the classic tale. The ambition taken into just broadening the source material into a modern age, but still holding true to that nostalgic feel was noticeable. It was something that I appreciated after having just watched the original to compare, and I thought the focus being on the human characters really worked nicely to create a balance between that and the story of Dumbo, and the flow between them really created a solid pace throughout the story progression. I thought this was able to really build some strong human-rooted emotional layers that intrigued on their own. Then, when the Dumbo story arc is woven in, it really results in some sincere emotional swings that made the film very engaging from start to finish. Suddenly, the heartfelt journey of Dumbo takes center stage, and it really does tug on the heartstrings, but without ever feeling melodramatic. I mean, just caring about Dumbo and being invested in the human characters really created a constant, just heartfelt attachment to the story progression, which I honestly found to be very enjoyable. I thought this really helped sell the connection between all the different characters and really made that unmentioned unity between them feel more authentic, which just added a subtle warmth to the atmosphere of the story. Now, I'll admit I'm hit and miss with Tim Burton. I definitely appreciate his eccentric creativity for what it is. However, it just doesn't always appeal to my personal taste. I love many of his movies as much as I dislike many of his films, but regardless, he does always pique my curiosity, and in this film, I thought he did a great job of creating a new vision for this story. There were some small hindrances here and there, but nothing to the extent of lessening the ability of this story to captivate me. I think he was able to create that sense of wonder for the film that was just very immersive from the opening scene. I think he captures the spectacle of the old-time carnival and circus perfectly, and with his direction, he creates a very adventurous mental escape. It's a beautiful film to watch. I enjoyed the visual makeup with kind of a slightly washed out look to the color design. I thought it was a nice touch. It was both vibrant, but at the same time kind of muted to really give the film that fun, nostalgic vibe that I felt complemented the story settings perfectly. It really was able to sweep me up into the imagination of it all. It took me to another time and place, and for that aspect, this film was a glowing success. I thought the designs to many of the settings and the backdrops were very just wild and creative to really build onto that time period feel nicely, but I gotta say, I do think there were instances that some of the concepts to the designs just had a little bit more of a Tim Burton feel than I would have liked. I did enjoy the overall visual appeal this movie provided. It's an immersive, beautifully shot film. It just reminded me of Tim Burton too often when I wish this movie would have had some of its own just unique creativity to build on its own. I thought the performances for the most part were all pretty solid. The standouts easily were Danny DeVito and Eva Green. I just loved the natural heart and charisma that they pumped into their roles, but also in the unassuming way that they delivered it. It wasn't in your face. It was was very subtle. I thought they were very humanized and authentic, which made me just appeal to them very quickly. I also did enjoy Farrell's performance. It was extremely capable. It just didn't grab onto me. He felt kind of like Colin Farrell, and while the southern accent was nicely delivered, it was also slightly distracting, and surprisingly, Michael Keaton was somewhat of a miss for me in this one, and I get it. He was taking it to eccentric levels for the sake of the character, but he felt a little too theatrical with his delivery rather than feeling like a character that was a fan of theatrics. I don't know if that makes sense. I just enjoyed a lot of his scenes, but then there were others that were very distracting where his delivery just wasn't selling me. I thought the special effects all across the board were fantastic. They delivered stunning visual appeal in even the most simplest of scenes, but the creation of Dumbo was amazing, and it was the highlight. With his facial expressions and his eyes alone, he was able to just capture so many layers of emotional reactions and responses, and it made Dumbo a very endearing character despite being a CGI creation, and it was just because of the overall detail taken into the crafting and designing of him. It gave the character a lot of heart and sincerity. It made him just naturally lovable, and with his arc in this story, the genuine connection to him just makes the intended messages of the movie hit with the impact they're supposed to. And last but certainly not least, because I think it's the best thing about this movie, that being Danny Elfman's score. It was phenomenal. No matter how much visual appeal this movie provided, it was Elfman's score that created the spectacle of it through his musical efforts. I mean, he was able to heighten the emotional beat of every scene with a extremely skilled precision. It just created that awe-inspiring splendor of the circus in grand form. And overall, I just had a fantastic time with this live-action remake of Dumbo, and I gotta give it a solid 85% on the entertainment meter. I do think it had a slight over-influence of Burton, and the darker tone is pushed a little bit more than it was needed to at times, but regardless, it was a well-thought-out and just visibly inspired reimagining that really holds true, but still pumps new charisma into this Disney classic, and I recommend checking out on the big screen just to see all the visuals and to hear Elfman's score.